Hello everybody. Today I'm going to teach you how to perform polynomial long division. What polynomial long division does is it takes one polynomial that's being divided by another and it returns a single polynomial with a remainder. This is very useful in math, so let's get started and see how we do it. Our first example, we have 9x cubed plus 24x squared plus 18x plus 10. And that's going to be divided by 2x. Now up here I have DMS or DMs, and this stands for divide, then multiply, and then subtract. Our first step is to divide. Now we have to divide 9x cubed by 2x, and this just leaves us with 4.5x squared. Our next step is to multiply. We have to multiply 4.5x squared by 2x, and this leaves us with 9x cubed. Now we have to subtract. I recommend putting everything here in brackets and putting the subtraction on the outside of the brackets. For simplicity and to make sure that we don't make mistakes, I also like to write plus 0x squared plus 0x plus 0. This doesn't change anything because 0x squared and 0x are just 0. Now we subtract. 9x cubed minus 9x cubed is just 0, so we don't need to write anything. 24x squared minus 0x squared, well, that's just 24x squared. 18x minus 0x, well, that's just 18x. And the same goes for 10. Now we need to divide again. We need to divide 24x squared by 2x. And that will leave us with 12x. So let's write that up here. Now we multiply. We need to multiply 12x by 2x, and that's 24x. So we can write that here. 24x squared, sorry. So we write that down here. And just the same as last time, we write plus 0x plus 0. And we subtract again. This will leave us with 24x squared minus 24x squared, that's just 0. 18x minus 0x, that's 18x. And that would be 10. Now we can divide one more time. So let's do that. What is 18x divided by 2x? That's 9. So we can write 9 up here. Now, 9 times 2x. Well, that would just be 18x. We can write that here, and the same as last time, we can write plus 0. Subtract. That'll leave us with 10, which will be our remainder. Up here, we can write remainder of 10. And now what this means is that this here would be equivalent to this. It'd be equivalent to 4.5x squared plus 12x plus 9 plus 10 over 2x. And the reason why this is because 10 is our remainder. So 10 can't be divided by 2x. So we can just write plus 10 over 2x. Let's move on to a harder example. Our next example is 14x cubed. So let's write this. 14x cubed plus 21x plus 4. Now, since we don't have an x squared term, we don't have to write anything, but I think it helps that we do for simplicity. So we can write 0x squared plus 21x plus 4, just like that. And that there is being divided by x minus 2. So we write that there. And there is a bit of a difference with this. As you can see, we're dividing by x minus 2. There's two terms. There's an x and a negative 2. Now, this doesn't change anything for our first step, which would be division. But it does change what we have to do for multiplication, which you will see. It's not much different, but there is a little difference. So we have to make sure we remember that. Our first step is division. What is 14x cubed divided by x? Well, that's just 14x squared. Now here's where things change. In our last example, we only had to multiply by x. Now we have to multiply by x and by negative 2. So like last time, I'm going to write my negative sign with the brackets first. Now let's multiply. What is 14x squared multiplied by x? That's 14x cubed, just like that. And now the new part is that we have to do 14x squared multiplied by negative 2. And that is negative 28x squared. And same as last time, we can write plus 0x plus 0. And now it might seem obvious why I wrote plus 0x squared at the beginning. It's so that our terms are in line with one another, just like that. Now we can do subtraction, the normal way we've been doing it, which would be 14x cubed minus 14x cubed. That's 0. We don't need to write anything. And then 0x squared minus negative 28x squared. That will just leave us with 28x squared. 21x minus 0x. That's just 21x. And for the same reason, that would be plus 4. Now we need to divide again. How many times can x go into 28x squared? Well, it can go into 28x squared 28x times, right? So we can write plus 28x up here. And now we can multiply. Just like last time, let's put our minus sign with our brackets. What is 28x times x? 28x squared would be the answer, so we can write that here. And now we can multiply, 28x by negative 2. And that will give us negative 56x. And we can write plus 0 here, just to help keep things easy. And now we can do 28x squared minus 28x squared. That's 0. We don't need to write anything. And now for the next term, we have 21x minus negative 56x. Another way to say this would be 21x plus 56x, which is just 77x plus 4. And now we have to divide again. So what is 77x divided by x? Well, the answer is just 77, so we can write 77 up here. And now we need to multiply. Just like last time, nothing's changing now. It's just repeating the steps over and over until we get a solution. So now we have to multiply. What is 77 times x? Well, that's 77x. And now 77 times negative 2. Well, that would be, let me just type that in, sorry. That'd be negative 154. Just like so. Subtract, and that will leave us with 77x minus 77x. That's 0. And 4 minus negative 154, that would be the same as saying 4 plus 154, which is 158. We know this is our remainder, and this is where we stop dividing. We stop the repeating steps, because 158 cannot be divided by x. We cannot get a result. So we know this is the end, this is our remainder. We can go up to the top, add remainder 158 up here. And now, what this is saying is that this here is equal to 14x squared plus 28x plus 77 plus 158 divided by x minus 2. And that would be our final answer. All right, let's move on to another question. All right, we have 18x squared plus 9x minus 2. So let's write that. Divided by 3x plus 4. Just like last time, there's no difference with this example. It's just a little bit harder. So our first step is to divide. How many times can 3x go into 18x squared? The answer is 6x, right? So 6x. And now we multiply. What is 6x times 3x? Well, that's just 18x squared. And again, what is 6x times 4? That's 24x. And just like last time, we can write a plus 0 on the end. Subtract 18x squared minus 18x squared. That leaves us with 0. We don't need to write anything. 9x minus 24x. That will leave us with negative 15x. And negative 2 minus 0, well, that's just negative 2. And again, we can divide. How many times can 3x go into negative 15x? The answer is negative 5, right? So we can write negative 5 up here, and now we multiply. What is negative 5? Sorry, I'll just add in the brackets. What is negative 5 times 3x? The answer is negative 15x. And then again, we can do negative 5 times 4. The answer is negative 20. Now we can subtract like we've been doing, and this will leave us with negative 15x minus negative 15x. This is like saying negative 15x plus 15x, which is 0. We don't write anything. And negative 2 minus negative 20, which is like saying negative 2 plus 20, which is just 18, which will be our remainder. Like last time, we know this is our remainder because it cannot be divided by x because it has no x term in it. So up here we write remainder 18. And now we can say that this here is equivalent to 6x minus 5 plus 18 over 3x plus 4. These two here are equivalent to each other, just a different way of writing them, a simplified way of writing them. All right, let's see one last example. Okay, this is the last example. The reason why it's written differently is because we can't actually solve it with polynomial long division. This is solvable by using something called partial fractions, but that won't be covered in this video. That'll be covered in an upcoming video. The reason why we can't solve it is because we have to look at the degree of the numerator and the denominator. The degree is just the highest power that an x is raised to. We can say in the numerator, the highest power is 2, and in the denominator, the highest power is 3. Now, in all the previous examples, you can go back and check. In the previous examples, the degree of the numerator has been larger than the degree of the denominator. Sorry. But in this example, it's not. It's the other way around. When the degree of the denominator is larger than the degree of the numerator, we can't do polynomial long division. It won't work. This is because we can't divide. So with an example like this, it isn't solvable, at least with polynomial long division. And that concludes today's video on polynomial long division. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. If you did enjoy, I'd like to ask that you leave a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Thanks. Have a great day.